What's poppin'? What's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome back to Nick at Prime Time. We're here on a Friday night. Welcome, my friends. We had a lot to discuss today. So, you guys know I'm always in the live cooking. I have two banger guests scheduled today, Kshama Sawant and our friend Fiorella Isabel. With Fiorella, I want to break down the Ukrainian peace plan that has the entirety of European neocons completely melting down, and how the NATO proxy war was a gigantic mistake. So that we'll be covering with Fiorella Isabel. Also have our dear friend Kshama Sawant, who is running as an independent against Adam Smith, and I was having a discussion on my good friend's Savvy Sav's podcast about Zohran Mamdani, and there was like a diehard Zohran Mamdani supporter that was on the show with me and Savvy Savs, and she was just describing how angry she was at Zohran Mamdani blatantly selling out the movement, and it's so clear the direction he's doing. I want to get Shama in because we don't have a ton of time with Shama today. I got two guests, but you guys know our girl Shama Sawant is always in the live cooking as well. So here's Shama calling out Zohran Mamdani for his insane strategy, the insane strategy by the DSA left of making backroom deals. Like we see Zohran Mamdani making backroom deals with Donald Trump because Trump loves Mamdani now. We're gonna get to that. That meeting between Mamdani and Donald Trump was surreal. But I want to bring Shama in to discuss this post because Shama, I mean, she's not going to hold back when she sees someone betraying their campaign promises. So let's bring our friend in now. We have amazing organizer and founder of Worker Strike Back, once again running as independent against genocidal Zionist Adam Smith. How you doing, Kshama Sawant? Welcome back to RBN.
Thank you so much for having me again, Nick. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Let me know how everything sounds, how everything looks. I've been playing around with some settings. Like I've been trying to get better at this. You know what I mean? So let me know how everything's going, how everything's sounding. And Shama, you've been in the lab cooking. You always put out these tweets that always have me like extremely hyped. Like I've been on the front lines calling out all the red lines regarding Zohran Mamdani, not because I just wanted to be a hater. It's because I've seen nothing but extremely suspicious stuff and red flags from him from weeks now. And now you have Zohran Mamdani betraying the DSA who wants to primary Hakeem Jeffries. So, like, I'm not going to read this whole statement, but I want you to describe it yourself. Shama, welcome to RBN. I want your thoughts. Actually, let me play this video. I want to set you up. I'll set you up with this. Here's the video, and then you can respond after the video. This is the video where everyone who doubted my criticisms of Zohran, this was the moment they woke up. So let's play the clip. I want to get your thoughts, Shama.
As you've seen, your election has created a lot of buzz. Now that the midterms are underway, that seems to be the focus, but your name is still being dragged into the midterms, right? Let me talk about Hakeem Jeffries for a moment, who now may face a challenge from Chi Osei, who is a member of the DSA. You said that there are local issues that Mr. Osei should be focused on, maybe should remain a councilman. Are you saying he should not run against Hakeem Jeffries?
No, I'm saying that I think the focus should be right here on New York City. I respect the work Councilmember Osei has done in the
But what does
council.
that mean? Should he not run?
I think that right now is not the time to be engaging in that kind of a primary. I think the focus should be on delivering on this affordability agenda.
And
now it's time, Shama. What's your thoughts?
I think it's, we've seen this show before, right? We have seen progressive Democrats get elected on a working class agenda and whose victory itself, their own victories. And I'm specifically thinking about Zohran Mamdani and AOC, their own election victories were just phenomenal examples of where hundreds of thousands of working class people who are angry at the cost of living crisis, and angry at being betrayed by politicians from both the Republican and Democratic parties. They are eager for a fight back. They're desperate for a change. And so the message of this affordability agenda, the demands that Zohran Mamdani campaigned on a rent freeze, on free transit and childcare, all of that funded by taxing the rich, the excitement around those demands was what fueled his election victory. obviously, aside from one of the most paramount features of this election this year, which was a repudiation of Zionism, a repudiation of Trump and his agenda of attacks on working class people. And so when you have that momentum, when you have a historic victory of that kind, that is exactly the moment when you should go for more and more of a campaign against the ruling class, against the establishment parties. And then when you have people like Mamdani, and it wasn't just Mamdani, as I indicated in my tweet, it was also AOC, when you have them saying now is not the right time, the subtext of that is that I'm here to make a cozy career for myself in the Democratic Party, and I am not about to stick my neck out for a broader fight back against the Democratic Party. I mean, I was totally fine using a working class agenda to run my own campaign and win my own election, but what I care about now is my career. Now that I've got my foot in the door, I care about my career, and I don't want to rock the boat. And just let's keep in mind whom we're talking about being primary, right? We're talking about Hakeem Jeffries. As I said in my tweet, Hakeem Jeffries is as much of an establishment politician, devoid of any soul or integrity as you can imagine. And he stands for everything Mamdani claims to stand against. Like my opponent, as you said, Nick, I'm running against Democratic Congress member Adam Smith. So Adam Smith and Hakeem Jeffries both are Democrats who have voted for tens of billions of dollars for the Israeli staged genocide in Gaza. And in those same votes, they also voted repeatedly to ban U.S. funding for United Nations food assistance to the Palestinian people. And this is at a time when there were report after report coming out about the catastrophic levels of mass starvation in Gaza. So these are the kind of people we're talking about that AOC and Mamdani don't want to challenge. I mean, Jeffries, let's not forget, has gotten a whopping $1.5 million to date from the Israel lobby. And I mean, AOC proudly proclaims every now and then, oh, I am not funded by AIPAC. Okay, you yourself are not funded by AIPAC. Same with Pramila Jayapal. She is not funded by AIPAC. But you know what these progressive establishment elected officials do in the Democratic Party? What is their primary role? The primary role of the progressive establishment inside the Democratic Party is to give cover to the Democratic Party's agenda, which is the agenda of capitalism and imperialism. So if you yourself as a Democratic politician don't take money from AIPAC, at this point, that means very little. Obviously, if you do take money from AIPAC, that's an open and shut case. Like Adam Smith, my opponent, he needs to go because he is clearly, he has a nearly 3-decade career of being like a diehard advocate for Zionism and for the Israeli state's occupation. But not taking money from AIPAC and the Zionist lobby is no guarantee at all. If you are running in the Democratic Party and if you are using your entire career to prop up the Democratic Party, then you are part of the problem, which is why I am running as an independent. I don't think you can actually, in any sense, reform the Democratic Party. You need independent movements and independent fight back.
Yeah, and Zohran Mamdani and the DSA left, they're not pushing the Democratic Party to the left. The Democratic Party is pushing them to the right. You have Hakeem Jeffries and the Democratic Party that voted on a resolution to condemn socialism. They're organizing with fascists, Kshama.
Yeah.
And
actually, I was just going to say, this resolution to condemn socialism, not only did Hakeem Jeffries vote yes on it, this resolution happened, I think, just before Mamdani was getting ready to meeting with Trump. So what on earth is a supposed socialist doing, going and meeting somebody he himself calls a fascist, while there's a resolution in the U.S. Congress demonizing and vilifying socialism? I mean, what the fuck?
Kshama, are you serious? You don't understand the strategy of making backroom deals with strong and ardent anti-communists in order to achieve victories for the working class? Don't you know there's a lot of historical precedent for that?
I know. I need to go and read some history, I guess.
The stuff that the DSA left and the boutique professional managerial class left will say to us with a straight face, Zohran Mamdani is playing 5D chess. Their entire politics is set up in such a plan.
It's not even 4D chess anymore. It's 5D chess.
They just be saying shit, Kshama. They just be saying shit. So you guys are forming a coalition with people who are, and I explained many times before that anti-communism, anti-socialism destroyed the American working class. There's a lot of faults with capitalism, but I think a lot of people misunderstand. There are a lot of capitalist countries in the world, and their working class is not as bankrupt as the American working class. So what's the difference? The difference is the unique anti-communism in the United States that decries any sort of real class struggle that holds the ruling class accountable. That the culture of anti-communism is why people step over homeless people. They judge people who are poor. Like, this is why the working class is struggling. It's a different level of class warfare against the working class. And Zohran Mamdani wants to organize with these people. And their number one thing they tell to us is shut and trust the plan. And I find it disgusting because we're still seeing this genocide that's still continuing in Gaza. We're seeing the Gaza enslavement plan being implemented. We're seeing Israeli terrorists storm and escalate their attacks on the West Bank to a level we never seen before. And as we, on the left, the true left, the revolutionary left, as we are calling for justice, and this is what I said during my speech for your campaign event, as we're pursuing justice for Palestine, because there's no justice without resolution. We should be holding people like Hakeem Jeffries responsible for killing countless Palestinians and providing cover for it. What Zohran Mamdani and the left is doing, which is disgusting to me, is instead of pursuing justice for Palestine, they want to move on, Kshama. There's nothing that Zohran Mamdani and his supporters want more than to simply move on from the issue without any sort of justice for Palestine. That's why they want to work with Hakeem Jeffries. That's why they want to work with Kathy Hochul and these insane Zionists. But not only that, they're actively condemning pro-Palestinian protesters. And I said it very early on that Zohran Mamdani was this to keep the anti-Zionist movement in line. He's a net negative for the Zionist movement. So you have this synagogue protest. I don't know if you saw this, Sean, but I would love to get your reaction to it. There were this protest at the synagogue, which is often protested because you guys know what they do at the synagogue? They actively sell off Palestinian land. Like, these synagogues are tied to the hip to not only the Israeli project, but the displacement of Palestinians. So then whenever people protest these genocidal synagogues that we're not allowed to criticize for some reason, then a bunch of Democrats come out and say that you're anti-Semitic if you don't support these synagogues funding ethnic cleansing and genocide. So here's the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, calling out the people who protested the genocidal synagogue. No New Yorker should be intimidated or harassed at their house of worship. What happened last night, I don't know the actual name of the synagogue, PE Synagogue. I don't know what that stands for, to be honest. But it was shameful and a blatant attack on the Jewish community. Hate has no place in New York. And I should have found the raw tweet, because the raw tweet, you see the massive ratio. Bro, Kshama, she was ratio so bad for this. You had Zohran Mamdani and the DSA left. They was furious at Hochul for undermining the anti-Zionist movement. And I think you guys already know where I'm going with this. Because you want to know who repeated the exact same thing as this Zionist psychopath, Kathy Hochul? You have Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani also sent out a tweet. I can find a tweet. I think I saved here somewhere. Zohran Mamdani said the same exact thing Kathy Hochul said and attacked and condemned the anti-Zionist protests as anti-Semitic. And all the heat that went to Kathy Hochul for the progressives, non-existent. Like, not all the people calling out Kathy for this, silent for Zohran for condemning this protest. So I don't know if you've seen this, but you have any thoughts about this? Because it's clear that Zohran is being used to drag the anti-Zionist movement to the right. Any thoughts on this insane story? I'm going to see if I can find that Zohran tweet real quick.
Yeah, I didn't know about the protest, but it's not surprising to me that Mamdani is taking a position where the balance of what he's saying is against the pro-Palestinian and anti-war and anti-genocide protest. And he has already, we already know that he has said that he discourages the use of the term global intifada, even though the term intifada, all it means is uprising. And by God, we do need an uprising. In fact, we need an international uprising. And so after he walked back away from supporting that term, I started saying that, yes, we absolutely need a global, we need to globalize the intifada. We do need an international movement. And obviously, the ceasefire is a name only. We know that Israel has already killed nearly 300 Palestinian people. It also, Israeli state has also killed nearly 300 people in Lebanon. I mean, they're continuing the massacre. The Guardian just reported that they found cluster munitions in the evidence, which are particularly gruesome weapons because they cause particular kind of horrific damage to human bodies and human lives. And yet, the fact that Trump was forced to enact any kind of ceasefire was absolutely because of the pressure from the international movement, especially, most importantly, from the Italian working class who carried out a general strike. That is an example of the Intifada, the general strike by the Italian working class, where they shut down the profit machine in order to put pressure on Western imperialism and US imperialism in order to carry out a ceasefire. That is a concrete example of what I think of as intifada. Intifada is uprising, and we need a global uprising, not only to end the genocide, but to end all wars that are going on in around the world. Let's not forget so many people being massacred in Sudan.
Yes.
Absolutely horrific. I mean, it's a nightmare that the people are living there, and that nightmare is precisely because of the forces of capitalism and imperialism, especially Western capitalism, and also the Middle East and the United Arab Emirates in particular. And so the only way we can end these horrors on the planet, not to mention the exploitation of billions of working class people that goes on every single day, is by globalizing the intifada. And more specifically, we're going to need an international movement, international revolutionary movements, to overthrow capitalism and to establish a socialist society globally. So absolutely, I embrace this fight as a badge of honor. And any leader who does not is what they're looking to do is build their careers on the backs of all these billions of people who are suffering. Obviously the genocide is one thing, but as I said, the tens of millions of people in the United States who are suffering every day through the cost of living crisis.
The difference between a Kshama Sawant and a Zohran Mamdani, as far as I'm concerned, is wide as the ocean is vast. Like, remember the article we showed on the last story where this right-winger tried to compare you and Zohran Mamdani as socialists? Like, challenging the establishment. Like, they're not the same thing. Because compared to what Zohran is doing now that he won, to what Kshama said she would do if she won, where you would call for an arms embargo of the state of Israel and a general strike. As you said on the show, correct me if I'm wrong, but you say you would call for a general strike and an arms embargo on Israel. So when Kshama wins this national seat, because Congress is a national seat, they vote on national platforms and policies, you're immediately going to use that to engage in class war. Compare that to Zohran Mamdani, whose strategy is to make backroom deals and undercut his movement to support King Jeffries in hiring the feds, the pigs, to be part of his organization. And I already talked about this a little bit Wednesday, so I want to hear more of your take. But I mentioned earlier, Kshama, and you might have been there. Like, we've covered this a lot over the last few weeks. I said very early on that Zohran Mamdani is not going to accomplish any of the bullshit he's promising. You might as well throw that away. But a progressive mayor is positive based on how you treat the police, because it can be a way to rein in the NYPD. So I understand why that could be valuable. But this here immediately shows that Zohran is not even going to do that. So, Kshama, I'll allow you to react to this. Anything you want to add about Zohran and his Zionist supremacist police chief, Jessica Tisch?
Yes, I mean, this is just astounding, and it's very, very important to point out. I'm glad you brought this up because, the opposition to the genocide and solidarity with the Palestinian people and with oppressed people has been one of the signature issues that Mamdani has spoken about. And so it is quite stunning. I'm not exactly surprised, but it's quite stunning, and it's important to point out that after he won the primary, after Zohran Mamdani won the primary, I mean, his popularity was sky high. He became an overnight international superstar. And So what you do with that position, even before he won the elected position, he had already won a position, a platform from which he can use that. He could use that platform to put pressure on the ruling class in several different ways. And when you have that kind of leverage, if you're a true leader of the working class and oppressed people, then that is what you will do. You will use your position of stardom and popularity to go on the offensive. But Mamdani has done the exact opposite. As soon as he won the primary, he started playing it safe. What did he start doing? I mean, I'll come to Jessica Tisch in a second, but he immediately got to work. And it's not, see, this is important to remember. It's not that the billionaires wanted to talk to him. He wanted to talk to the billionaires.
Yeah.
He sought the meeting with the billionaires. And in fact, he repeatedly asked for meetings with them. He has met with them several times. And also, he asked for a call list. He asked one of these representatives, Kathy something, her name, I can't remember, but she's like the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce or something like that. Basically, she's a lobbyist. In other words, she's a lobbyist for the billionaires and multimillionaires of Wall Street. And he asked her, can you give me a list of, this was reported by the New York Times, of people I should call. And so he called the CEOs and former CEOs of venture capital firms like BlackRock and Blackstone. I mean, you know who these people are? They are not, they're not your neighborhood, whatever manufacturer. These are venture funds which have basically, they sit on Wall Street and they make money because they have money. And so they have a finger in every pie, whether it's the meat industry or the dairy industry or the weapons industry or the restaurant industry or the manufacturing industry. It doesn't matter what industry you talk about. If you go and look at any publicly traded company, and you can Google this. You don't have to take my word for it. You can Google this, and if you find out who owns the majority shares of any of these companies, then you will see BlackRock owns most of it. Vanguard owns most of it. Blackstone owns most of it. Geode owns most of it. And who owns most of the shares of those companies, so to say? It's the same billionaires and multimillionaires. So the same group of people is making money no matter what. And so Mamdani was busy dialing the phone for those people. And I think one of the things that stands out the most is that he sought to talk with Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York, Republican. He is a multi-billionaire. He's an arch Zionist. I don't understand how you can claim to stand for the Palestinian people and then cozy up to the Zionists. And now Jessica Tisch was, that really took the cake. And look at the power dynamic. I think that's one of the things we have to focus on, because people might feel confused. Sometimes people ask me, okay, but what's wrong in talking to them? But it's not about talking to them. It's the fact that you are preoccupied with seeking their approval, while you could be using your stardom to actually build movements. Instead of using his momentum to build movements, what was he doing? So just to give a contrast, when I won my first city council election in 2013, that was absolutely historic. I had all kinds of power players, coming and talking to me, trying to, woo me from being an actual revolutionary socialist, trying to praise me, literally saying, hey, Kshama, this is great. You're a woman, you're an immigrant. You should not worry about your fellow revolutionary socialists. You should do your own thing. These are things that they say in order to prop up your ego, to try and get you to sell out. My response to that was, they can all go fuck themselves. What we are going to do is build for the $15 movement. That was our signature issue. So immediately after we won, Nick, we organized tables across the city. Tables meaning, where we set up our political material, our petition and everything, and talking to ordinary people, because we wanted to build pressure for the $15 minimum wage before I even took office in January of the next year. And so right there, before the Christmas holidays in 2013, we had organized tables across the city of Seattle to get people, ordinary working people, involved in the fight for 15. And then right after I was inaugurated in the January in the following year, I launched the 15 Now campaign. And on June 2nd of 2014, we had won $15 an hour. That is how you wage a fight for working class people. So did I have to meet other council members and maybe even some business representatives? Yeah, I did have to meet them, but I never sought meetings with them. And that was never my preoccupation. And I was never trying to woo them. I never tried to do what the New York Times claimed that Mamdani was doing, which is a charm offensive. That is not how you win over. And so I just want to talk about the power dynamic here. So Mamdani has all this leverage because everybody loves him. He has 100,000 volunteers for his campaign. And instead of using that leverage to really push for massive reforms against racism, against anti-poor policing in the police department, instead he said publicly, I want Jessica Tisch to continue. And then it was like, look at the balance of power. He could have done anything he wanted, and instead he put all the power in her hands. So it was all about, oh, is Tisch going to accept or not? Oh my God, like, it's up to her if she accepts or not. So
Like,
you know what I'm saying? It's like,
that's a good point.
It's completely destroying the power dynamic that you could actually maintain and build on for working class people. And just to give a sense of who Jessica Tisch is, I mean, she is the heir of one of the major multi-billionaire families in New York City. She is also an arch Zionist. She has a grotesque track record of cracking down on pro-Palestine, anti-genocide protesters. And to give you another, like the icing on the cake of who she is when she accepted his offer for her to be really request. I mean, he was really requesting. I mean, it was pretty awful to continue as an NYPD commissioner. At that time, a former NYPD commissioner, Bill Bratton, I don't know if people remember this guy. Some of your viewers might be too young to remember this, but he was a guy who took this broken windows type of, broken windows idea to the extreme level. And what broken windows, in short, it means policing where you crack down brutally on poor people, especially poor people of color, and crack down on very small crimes, while basically the whole concept of policing being allowing the rich to exploit the poor and allowing the machine of mass incarceration to gobble up, just people upon people, just lock up thousands of people for petty crimes. That is the idea that Bill Bratton put forward. And Jessica Tisch loves that idea. She is a proponent of broken windows. And Bill Bratton, in his social media post, he was so delighted that Tisch is now again the police commissioner. His tweet said, I mean, this is a quote, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Hanukkah came early for New Yorkers. So when a horrible police brutality proponent celebrates this as Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Hanukkah coming together, that should tell you what kind of policing this is going to be putting forward.
That's such a great breakdown. And before I get to the next part, trust me, you guys want to see it. Because guess who's defending Zohran Mamdani betraying his base and hiring a police commissioner? The gatekeepers we're talking about. So we're going to discuss that next. I'm going to show you guys our class enemies. And this is the point I made on Savvy, which I think a lot of people don't understand. We don't have small disagreements with these people. They play an active role to shut down all revolutionary movements, and they are here to defend the Democratic Party. So we're going to show our favorite band of misfits who defends Zohran for this. But before I do that, if you're on the RBN stream, make sure you switch over. I'm going to end the stream on the RBN YouTube channel. We are streaming on multiple platforms, so make sure you check those out if you're on the RBN YouTube page. And make sure you guys like, subscribe if you're enjoying. We're about a month in on my new channel, so I appreciate all the support we got thus far. So let's play. These are the people who are our enemies, who support Mamdani keeping Jessica Tisch as the NYPD commissioner. Listen to her argument.
But also, I mean, he's getting criticism for keeping on the police commissioner, which is like a decision that I agree with strategically.
You guys see how these people exist to shift the anti-Zionist movement to the right? To shift what it means to be a socialist to the right? Jessica Tisch teamed up with ICE in order to deport pro-Palestinian protesters. But suburban rich white girl here is okay with throwing Palestinians under the bus. And for what? Zohran Mamdani's career and her access? She is a prominent, very well-known DSA organizer. I know we don't fuck with these people, but they have a giant channel because they are an arm of the DSA media apparatus. And this is what they're preaching. This is why the New York working class is completely screwed. I'll play the whole clip in full without interrupting. Sorry, I only lasted 7 seconds. I'll play the whole thing without interrupting you.
But also, I mean, he's getting criticism for keeping on the police commissioner, which is like a decision that I agree with strategically. I mean, I think that like he does not want to get bogged down in a fight with the NYPD in the first year of his enacting his agenda.
I think pick every fight with everybody at all times. Be throwing punches at everyone. I think, yeah, we're definitely set up to take on the entire NYPD in the first few months of Zohran's month.
And Zohran, I think, can do a lot if he has a firm hand with the police commissioner about what can and cannot be tolerated, and then maybe put reforms on the back burner for right now and ending, certain practices more unilaterally. But taking on the police union when you're trying to enact your affordability agenda, when there's a specific time frame also of like pressure to get Hochul on board as she has her primary challenge, could be a poison pill. And so I'm liking the strategic thinking from Zohran, even when it's difficult, or I wish it was going differently. Yeah.
If there's anything to be strategic about, that's the position, because like it's not like there's some like woke police commissioner waiting in the wings, some leftist police commissioner to replace her with. Like, just keep her to keep police happy, and then focus on the positions where there are actual change candidates for the position that can get through your agenda, and then deal with the police after everything else.
Exactly.
You guys see the very crucial role that these people play, how they're here to instill political nihilism to the working class. Hey, Kshama, why even have to fight? Why should we fight? What's the point of fighting? Fighting is hard, guys. I know you got a lot to say about this, Kshama. Like, this video blow. I've seen the video like 3 times. I'm still blown away. You guys see, I'm raging watching this, and I already know what they said. Like, it drives me crazy that these are the people that are considered the mainstream left in the United States. Kshama, what's your reaction to this? This, to me, is a betrayal of the highest order.
Yes, I think that, just for the sake of argument, even if you assume that is coming from a position of good intentions, that this idea that she put forward, Emma Vigeland put forward, that, well, and also others on the show there just now, that in the clip that you played, that, well, it's strategic to not fight all battles at once. It's useful in order to carry out the affordability agenda, you're going to put everything else aside and focus on that. But that's not exactly what they're doing. First of all, what they're doing is not saying that, okay, we'll build a fight on this very soon. But at this moment, I absolutely don't agree with Jessica Tisch continuing as police commissioner. That would have been different. If he had said that, well, I absolutely want to carry out an agenda on, addressing racism and anti-poor policing. But for now, what we will do is I'm going to take my time looking for a police commissioner who does not represent broken windows policing. And he could even have been honest, as I would have been, as I have been honest with the BLM movement, that I don't think you can abolish the police under capitalism. That is why I am a revolutionary socialist. That is why you are a revolutionary socialist, Nick, because we know that this can't happen on the basis of capitalism. We have to, in order to eliminate policing and in order to eliminate the kind of society we have under capitalism, we have to overthrow capitalism itself. But it is also our obligation to push for as much as we can win in order to address the immediate concerns, immediate problems that people are facing by this very, very systematic policy of anti-poor and anti-Black policing. That is not what he did. And the second point, again, I'm just saying this all just in order to make that argument. I don't actually believe that it's coming from good intentions, but for the moment. And then as far as this idea is concerned, which is these people are putting forward and all the DSA leaders, well, it is strategic. You need to pull your punches in order to be able to win on affordability. That is, even if you put the most benign interpretation on it, that, yeah, they genuinely think this, then the most benign thing I can say about all that is that you're completely mistaken if you think that. If you actually think that by pulling your punches, pulling your punches on other issues, you're somehow going to win affordability, that is not how it works. If you pull your punches, if you refuse to go on the offensive every opportunity you get against the ruling class, they will carry out class warfare against you. They will smell blood in the water and they will come after you. They are absolutely ruthless and vindictive in their fight against the working class and the poor. You have to be absolutely relentless back if you are to win anything for the working class. So what I'm saying, my starting point is that even if I put the most benign interpretation of good intentions on this, they are completely mistaken that that is the strategy to win. But really, I think what is really actually going on, and I know some people don't want to hear this, but actually what is going on is that these actions that you are seeing right now, bending to Kathy Hochul, trying to get her endorsement, calling Michael Bloomberg, begging Jessica Tisch to continue as the commissioner, and going and meeting Trump. All of this is an indication of the strategy that they are going to use, even for affordability. It's not like they're holding on to a secret offensive strategy and they're just buy. Don't worry, this is 4D chess. He's going to come out with a mass movement announcement in January. That's not how it works. If he was the kind of guy who would do that, he would do that now. If he was the kind of guy who would build a mass movement, then he would actually refuse to reappoint an arch Zionist and billionaire heiress as the police commissioner. So what I'm saying is that what he's going to do in the future is very much linked with what he's doing right now.
Never trust anyone, especially if you're on the left. I think this applies to everybody, but I think especially if you're on the left. Never trust anyone who tells you to shut up and trust the plan. That has been the strategy of the professional managerial class my entire time following politics. And I explained countless times like how I was radicalized. Like even on my days on the Bernie campaign, I used to be like, why are we being nice to Elizabeth Warren? Why is Bernie Sanders not laying a glove on Joe Biden and calling him his good friend? These are things I was saying even when I was more of a social democrat like 6 years ago. And I went along with it because you had people who were senior. I was like 7 years younger. I wasn't as wise as I was now. And there would be people in the Bernie campaign higher up. They'd be like, hey, man, shut up and trust the plan, man. Just trust the plan. And I did because I was younger. I didn't have the political maturity I did. And then I've seen the Bernie Sanders movement not only lose, but sell out. So that's the strategy by the professional managerial class in order to hold off the workers who will hurt their career possibilities. So what we see from Democrats all the time is they are radical, socialist, revolutionaries when a Republican is in charge. Hell, even when Eric Adams is in charge. But the second that a Democrat win and they get the progressive darling, they start behaving like lawyers on behalf of the ruling class. You guys see the difference? When you have a neoliberal capitalist or a Republican, they're radical as fuck. Ryan Grimm is radical as fuck when he covers Gaza under Donald Trump. But then here they are again, acting as lawyers on behalf of the ruling class. Here's Ryan Grimm going after people who are critical of Zohran. One issue is that Mamdani did not run on police reform, Kshama. He didn't run on it. You see these weaselly lawyer arguments? Hey, he didn't be upset with Zohran because technically, he didn't say he was going to take on the NYPD. Look at this pathetic lawyer nonsense. And I had arguments with Zohran people while I explained how he actually going to hurt the anti-Zionist movement. He's not going to achieve any victories for the working class. And the response I got from them every single time is, well, don't you know it would be great to have progressive as America? At least they can rein in the NYPD. I shit you not. I was told that countless times. They're like, don't you know that there are a lot of small things that progressive mayors could do to improve the quality of life in New York? Now they went from that to saying, well, don't you know that Zohran technically didn't run on that? Zohran didn't run on that? All right, let me finish the rest of the tweet. And Kshama, I know you had a lot of words for Ryan Grimm in the past. I also have Fiorella. I would love to get Fiorella's thoughts on the Mamdani Trump meeting, which we will be covering. Like, I know I'm running a little bit late, but we had to do a thorough breakdown of this. Here's tweet, and Kshama, you can respond to this. One issue is that Mamdani did not run on police reform and has no mandate on it. If anything, he ran away from it. So we just accept it now because Ryan Grimm said so. Taking on the NYPD without having to run on it, it will go about as well as you expect. What are you even talking about? But Kshama, do you want to reply to this?
Yes. First of all, what you said is spot on, Nick. That this tweet reads exactly like a trial lawyer would, the way a trial lawyer would speak in a court of capitalism. He didn't run on police reform, so he's not he's not required to deliver on that. That is absolute stuff and nonsense. And this is what you see from these gatekeepers. I mean, this tweet from Ryan Grimm is classic gatekeeper language. It's gatekeeperese. I think that's a language we should talk about. It's a gatekeeperese. It's saying that, well, he didn't run on it. But you know what? I don't accept this. Obviously, Nick, you and I don't accept this hogwash as any valid argument. But two things. One, I wanted to give you a counter example from my own time on the city council. Talk about what I did with an issue I did not run on, to show what you can do if you're actually fighting for working class people on issues that you didn't run on. But before that, I think it is also important to remember that Mamdani, and even Ryan Grimm cannot argue that this is not true. Mamdani did run on immigration issues. He did talk about ICE not being able to, carry out terrors in the city. And you know what Jessica Tish's record is? It is of allowing the NYPD, at the very least, to stand aside when ICE is terrorizing the neighborhoods, but even worse. So in other words, if you want to hold Mamdani to account on his the campaign that he did actually run on, which is in solidarity with immigrants who are facing the horrors from ICE, and especially pro-Palestine protesters, people like Mahmoud Khalil, who are being targeted by ICE because of their courageous protests, then yes, absolutely, you are accountable and you do have the mandate to act on it, but you're choosing not to. Just to give you a counter example, when I ran in 2013 for my first city council election, I ran on $15 an hour, taxing the rich, and rent control. I mean, obviously, there was a lot more to my program, but those were the most prominent demands that I talked about everywhere I went during the campaign trail. But soon after after we won 15 and all that, we saw a struggle for Uber and Lyft drivers, rideshare drivers, come to City Hall. My fellow revolutionary socialists and I, we did not launch that struggle. So I don't claim that we launched that struggle. But what did happen is that when the drivers came to City Hall, they were being organized by the Teamster leadership and the MLK Labor Council, which is our local AFL-CIO at the time. But we saw very clearly what was happening and what was going to happen. We saw the writing on the wall that these drivers who are struggling for basic survival, they were going to be sold down the river by the Teamster leadership and by the MLK Labor Council leadership, because we could see that they are business unionists. They don't want to go against the Democratic city council members and the mayor, who were all hostile to the drivers. And most importantly, they don't want to go against the union, the bosses of Uber and Lyft. And these Uber and Lyft corporations, I mean, they are absolutely horrifically ruthless and vindictive. They send the most vile lobbyists to fight against these drivers. And one of those lobbyists was Tim Sees. I want to mention him. There's a context to that, more current context to that. But anyway, we could see that the labor bureaucrats were refusing to fight these Uber lobbyists, and they were going to sell out the drivers. And so we played a crucial role, which has never been talked about actually publicly, other than us talking about it, because the labor leadership does not want to acknowledge it. But remember, Nick, you were at you were at our rally in October. Remember, one of our first speakers, Takele Gobena, who was a driver at that time, he's talked about it in his speech that actually the Uber drivers won their victories, which is the minimum wage and the right to unionize, which are historic victories for them, only because my office was on the city council, because we were fighting so hard for them that it forced the labor leadership into not selling them out, because they would be so exposed. With me fighting for the drivers, me fighting against the Uber lobbyists, and our movement fighting against them, the labor leadership would have been completely exposed. So we forced them into not selling out. And so the drivers know that they won only because we were part of that struggle. And they played the paramount role of having the courage to fight back. But I am offering that as an example of an issue that I did not run on. I could easily have said, well, I didn't run on driver issues. I mean, don't ask me. I don't want to stand up to the Uber lobbyists. But we did do that. Why? Because we are revolutionary socialists, and we take our responsibility very seriously, that when you have a platform which gives you some leverage, you have to use it in solidarity with the working class. You don't use that leverage to build your own career and for your own interest. And the reason I mentioned Tim Cease, this ruthless Uber lobbyist, is that Katie Wilson, the new mayor, now she's being celebrated as the other Mamdani, the Mamdani of Seattle and whatever. She has built her transition team. She announced her transition team recently. The director of her transition team is this guy named Andres Mantilla, and he is somebody who has for many years worked closely with this guy, Tim Cease. So here you have somebody who claims to be a democratic socialist, somebody who claims to be the Mamdani of Seattle, and her transition team, as she becomes mayor, is led by somebody who's been very close to the Uber lobbyist. I mean, what do you say about this whole story? This is all sellout written all over it.
Very well said. I want to bring my guests in here too, but it's very disgusting that I saw a mass misleading of the working class, because one of the things I would say to Zohran supporters, which irritate them, I told them, if you think that Zohran Mamdani is going to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, you are a deeply unserious clown. So why is Zohran Mamdani saying that when he knows he's not going to do it? We know he can't do it, and he's not willing to do it. He's here to mislead the working class. And that lie, that giant lie, like, bro, we can't accept these people spreading these kind of lies. But I want to move on. I want to get to the Trump Mamdani meeting. Sean, how you doing on time? Do you have time to cover the Mamdani Trump meeting? I know I want to bring that up as our next topic.
Yes.
But before I do that, I would love to get you doing well on time. Just one more segment.
I can do that just one thing, and then I'll
I'll cover the one. We can cover the Trump Mamdani segment. I'll let you go. But before we do, I want to bring in our other guest, our good friend, amazing geopolitical reporter. Thank you for joining us once again, Fiorella Isabel. Welcome to RBN. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Nick. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. You know I'm a big fan of your work and your breakdown on many of the geopolitical topics. I hope we have time to cover today. I know this first segment is going a little bit long, and I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts, because Fiorella, just like us, is one of the people who was fooled by Zohran and his nonsense. So before we continue, before I move on to the Zohran Trump meeting, do you have any reactions, Fiorella, to Zohran walking back his campaign promises and his disappointed supporters? What are your thoughts on the left falling for it again before we get started? Thank you for joining us once again, Fiorella. It's always great to chat with you.
Yeah, I caught what you were saying a little bit about the Bernie Sanders movement. And I was just talking about Zohran Mamdani and the fact that he showed his cards all along. He began his campaign by surrounding himself with Elizabeth Warren, surrounding himself with AOC, surrounding himself with Obama. It was pretty clear. I don't understand how it wasn't clear. And, myself, and I was on a podcast with Nico House, we were very much involved in the Sanders campaign, where we were able to see the infiltration, the capturing of the Sanders campaign by centrist, and how that entirely was used to sheep herd people back into the Democratic Party. And everything since the last 10 years, because it's been like 10 years, have been iterations of that, whether it's been on the Trump side with the populists or on the left with these, DSA types that have been essentially captured to promote the Democratic Party. They all use the same language. They hyper-focus on certain issues without any class backing, because a lot of these people are not focused on class. They're focused on slogans and brands. So essentially what they've become is the next generation of the Democratic Party, because they've figured out they can't just sell you on hating any sort of threat. They have to become and mimic the anti-establishment, the anti-imperialists that exist, and they have to fracture them. And that's exactly what they've been doing in the last few years. And so now we're here, and we have the we're going to talk about that, but I just want to point out the unity, right? This whole facade, and the Trump being this peace president that has managed a broken ceasefire in Gaza, that has managed a complete and total devastating, just awful solution from the UNSC into giving Gaza to him and to the Zionists. And now what we're seeing is the next thing that he's going to try to tackle is Ukraine. So he's deeming himself the peace president. So this goes along with the rhetoric. And Mamdani is going to be the guy that is going to talk to everybody else, because populism alone is not going to get you change if that populism is up for sale. You need to have a class consciousness backing when you go into this. This is why some elements of the populist right don't really they seem to align with the anti-establishment left sometimes, but then when it comes to certain issues, they flip because it's not backed by anything more than convenience. And that goes along with the liberals as well, like Brian Grimm. You've seen exactly what it is. It's the gatekeeping. It's the I'm so smart and I'm just gonna try to put out some mental gymnastics to justify his capitulation and what's happening. And so what we see here with Mamdani is he represents a rebranded Democratic Party that's being sold to Gen Z. It's being sold to millennials. It has the same backings of this very multilingual type of very smart working families party. It just has all the touches of everything that represents that, like, laptop elite professional class in New York. And it sells and they feel good about, say, supporting the Palestinian cause, but they don't actually in action. When it comes down to it, they really wouldn't. And they really don't care about foreign policy. And I think that's one of the things that Mamdani represents. So yeah, let's go ahead and discuss that.
Yeah, let's get right into it. And what your breakdown was amazing as always, Fiorella. And I've seen the ruling class just completely locked in, like the last 15 years or so. The ruling class has been extremely locked in. I think it was Occupy Wall Street that originally probably scared the shit out of them. Like you had, I'll go before that. I'll go a little bit before that. Maybe the Iraq War. I think the Iraq War protests scared the shit out of them. So this is when the ruling class is like, all right, bro, we got to lock in before we lose our empire. So they get Obama to come in and trick young people and think he's a peace candidate. That's a way for them to sheepdog people back in the establishment. Then when Obama won, a ton of rednecks was upset, so they needed a way to get those people back in after George W. Bush upset at them. So what do? You get a MAGA psyop. So after the MAGA psyop takes charge, then you have a ton of young people who are upset at Obama. Once again, the cycle repeats itself. You have a ton of people upset over Obama who left the Democratic Party. So what happens? Bernie Sanders happens, bring people back into the Democratic Party. Then the Democratic Party still upsets young people. So what they do then? You allow Zohran Mamdani to win, as the Democratic Party is lower than it's ever been after the genocide. It was an amazing move. I said the ruling class has been completely locked in, and Zohran Mamdani is extremely talented, probably once in a lifetime talent when it comes to political skills. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that is why I was scared shitless, my friend. The second I saw how good he was. Because I was like, oh, this is someone who definitely can trick many of the uneducated leftists who are well-meaning. And that's what we see. But all right, let me shut up. Let me get to the meeting. I was riffing based on what Fiorella was saying. We start with Kshama. I was going through these clips earlier, and it's surreal to see. I've played this first clip. I'm going to give you guys a response. They had this big meeting between Donald Trump and Zohran Mamdani where Donald Trump fell in love. He has a way to say it. Donald Trump straight up fell in love with Zohran Mamdani. Let's play this
very well. And I wanted to congratulate the mayor. He really ran an incredible race against a lot of smart people, starting with the early primaries against some very tough people, very smart people. And he beat them easily. And I congratulated him. And we talked about some things in very strong common, like housing and getting housing built and food and prices, and the price of oil is coming way down. That anything I do is going to be good for New York. If I can get prices down, it's good for New York. And we've got them down, way down from last year. We have, as you know, I've been saying to a lot of people, Walmart said that Thanksgiving this year is exactly 25% less than last year. So that's good for New York, good for everybody. But I just want to congratulate. I think you're going to have hopefully a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am, I will say. There's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. And we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
I love Donald Trump so much. You guys hear what he said? He said the quiet part out loud. I'm going to show DDG's tweet just in case you missed it. He said, there's no difference in party. Like, Donald Trump is glorious because he's the kind of guy who will say the quiet part out loud. I'll play before I get in. Kshama, I want to get your initial thoughts. I have a few more clips because I think I have a few more. I'm not going to show the whole meeting, obviously, but I want to show you guys some highlight moments. But here's I think it's probably the most telling part.
I will say there's no difference in party. There's no
difference in party. Y'all love when Donald Trump says the quiet part out loud, right, Kshama? What's your initial impression from this meeting?
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why, even though people, the ruling class, the billionaire class, prefers Donald Trump, obviously, to anybody who would run on something like the agenda, that working class agenda that Bernie Sanders ran on. He's still not their preference because he's unpredictable, he's not fully controllable, and he does occasionally say the quiet part out loud. And so that was a good catch that you did. I wanted to start by something that you were saying, Nick, earlier about the take that from the DSA leadership, the liberal leadership from all over the place. And so I have a quote from the Sunrise Movement. I believe they posted this on Instagram. And they said that what Zohran Mamdani did is truly, they're referring to his meeting with Trump, but what Zohran Mamdani did is truly masterful because he brought in FDR. He kept emphasizing affordability. And what that showcases to American voters, Democrat, Republican, and Socialist, is that he cares about delivering material change to Americans. And, and Mamdani himself said from the meeting, when he was asked by the press, he said that he is, and this is a quote, really looking forward to delivering for New Yorkers in partnership with the president on the affordability agenda. Are you fucking serious? Trump has just spent this whole year royally screwing over tens of millions of Americans, from his vicious attacks to Medicaid and Medicare to his assault on immigrants. Literally every day, there are TikTok videos of young and older people alike, many of them in tears, talking about how they're breaking down from the financial ruins that their lives are in, despite them working often 2 or even 3 jobs. There are so many videos of young people saying, I don't know how I don't know how my life turned out like this. What kind of world am I living in? I can't pay my bills, even though I go to work every day and I'm not doing anything extravagant. That's the economy for tens of millions of people and their families. And Mamdani is talking about building an affordability agenda with this president. I mean, this is taking Mamdani's strategy of so-called, charm offensive, as the New York Times said, to absurd lengths. But this is not funny. It's not funny. It's a joke on the working class. It's not even neutral. This is the exact opposite of what's needed for the working class. And most importantly, it sends the wrong message. It is miseducating working class people. It says that all we need is for our progressive, quote unquote, progressive leaders to suck up to billionaires and their representatives, and our lives will get better. Well, that is not how the working class has ever won or will ever win. We cannot be seduced by this kind of theater. We have to call it what it is. It is political theater. We can't afford to be seduced by it. We need to build a working class army to defeat the billionaires and their system. And that is why I keep coming back to the exact opposite strategy that we used when we won our city council elections year after year. I mean, I won 4 elections, and each time we used the momentum from the election victory to launch a massive campaign. In 2013, the victory, we used that to launch a campaign for 15 Now, and we won. In 2019, we launched a campaign when we won after Amazon threw down $1.5 million to try and defeat me. We still won. And then we launched the Tax Amazon movement, and we won that. And so each time when you have momentum, if you are a working class representative, that is what you should be doing. I mean, if I were in Mamdani's position, instead of asking for Trump to meet with me, I would have announced a mass rally of tens of thousands of people in New York City to protest against ICE raids, to declare that New York City will not tolerate ICE and will fight Trump every inch of the way. And then I would have launched a mass campaign for free transit and free childcare and build a militant momentum to win. I'll just say one other thing. Perhaps the most shameful part of Mamdani's visit to Trump is that he is managing to make Trump look good at a time when Trump's approval is tanking.
Yes.
So to me, the highlight of this whole episode of him going and meeting with Trump and watching all these videos is that, I mean, what struck me immediately is that not only is Mamdani on the project of putting the Democratic Party, the rotten Democratic Party, on life support, he's now trying to put Trump on life support as well. This is exactly the wrong strategy. And that is why, just to say, just in closing, that, I have not only done the exact opposite, I'm planning to do exactly the opposite. So if I win, as you said earlier, Nick, if I win my Revolutionary Socialist campaign for the US Congress, defeating pro-genocide Democrat Adam Smith, I will turn my congressional inauguration into a mass rally of 10,000 people in Washington, D.C., and we will immediately launch the campaign to end all US military aid to Israel, and another campaign for free healthcare for all funded by taxing the rich. We will not be going around seeking meetings with the billionaires.
People are loving this political theater, Fiorella. You call it out as political theater, and it is. People are loving this political theater. They're loving people who insulted each other on the campaign trail, meeting up and having civility politics with one another. Fiorella, I want to hear your initial thoughts of that clip. I have a few more clips to show. I have a few I think is very telling and very, I think, also hilarious. But Fiorella, anything you want to add before I move on and show a few more clips? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, just quickly, it's crazy. The Kshamas, I hope she is able to defeat Adam Smith, because it's been years too. I remember other people trying to defeat Adam Smith and then capitulating because they went back to the Democratic Party. And what this shows is that in these years, that strategy hasn't worked. The whole going in and reforming it, that hasn't worked. And we learned a long time ago that didn't work. And what you're seeing here is a new, it's just a different tactic, but it's the same type of strategy. He's going to, Mamdani is going to try to placate to whoever is in power, because he's simply a theatrical puppet that's put out there to do the bidding of the establishment, of the uniparty. And as you said, Nick, they said the quiet part out loud. That's it. There's absolutely no difference. And I hope people heard that part, because that is an essential part to understand as to why the strategy of, inside and reform doesn't work. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people are stuck in that endless cycle. And as you said, a lot of people are coming into this young, and now, we came into it 10 years ago. Now they're coming into it now, and they're not familiar with what's going on. So we're here to remind them, look, we have a long history of this happening over and over again. And one of the things that Donald Trump is doing, which I want to once again point out, he's trying to brand himself as the peace president, and Mamdani going there and talking to him is essentially saying, hey, yeah, that's what's happening. Look what Donald Trump is doing, which I find very ironic that the Democratic Party would like that, unless that's kind of like their thing too. Because at the end of the day, what we're seeing here is Donald Trump's foreign policy is extremely destructive and extremely beneficial to the elite ruling class. And that benefits both the Democrats and the Republicans. There's also distractions happening away from the crimes of these politicians that are unraveling. So what we're seeing is Mamdani being used as a sort of attempt to promote this facade of unity and peace and look at this diplomacy. Look how we're talking nicely to each other. Look how this is possible. That's liberalism. It's liberalism. What they just showed there, and what Ryan Grimm also said, he made another tweet about how this could be historic, and this could be, this is life-changing. He basically said this is a pivotal moment. I don't know if you can bring that one up, but it's hilarious. And what he stated there is liberalism. It's liberalism. It is a capitulation, what we just saw. There is no place, no universe where capitulating to somebody like Donald Trump, who supposedly stands diametrically opposed to what he campaigned on, with Mamdani campaigned on, is anything but capitulation. It is not something to be proud of. It is something to look down on.
We have still a lot to cover, but I want to thank Kshama for your time. I always love having these conversations with you. Time always flies by, so I appreciate you joining us for the first hour. Is there anything you want to plug or promote before I send you off here? We still have a few more things I want to cover. I want to get to Ukraine. I'm running low on time here. There's still a few things I want to pick Fiorella's brains about. But any final words you want to say, Kshama, before I send you off? Thank you for joining us once again. It's always amazing to hear from you.
First of all, yeah, thank you so much, Nick. It's always a pleasure to join you in this conversation. I was just, in closing, I was just going to say people should join our campaign at kshamasawant.org and also join Workers Strike Back. You can find it at workerstrikeback.org. But I also just want to say one final thing is Fiorella made a very important point, which is that not only is Mamdani trying to put Trump on life support on the affordability question, which Trump has no credibility on, and tens of millions of people are angry at him, but he's also trying to give Trump he's offering Trump this whole image of, oh, he's the peace president. And it's absolutely vile at the same time that they are calling him a fascist. So we are supposed to suspend all logic, all reason, all comprehension, and believe that they are making peace with each other. And also at the same time, Trump is a fascist. Go figure.
That's crazy. That's a great point. Thank you, Kshama. We're gonna roll with Brian Grimm a little bit more here. Thank you, Kshama. Make sure you guys support. You guys know I'm a big supporter of Kshama Sawant. I love Kshama. I love Kshama a lot. I think she does a lot of great work. This is I found it, and bro, I almost played Trump so hard. like my blood pressure is rising just reading this because I didn't see it till you brought it up. I wish I was told to Kshama. I love like the hatred that Kshama had for people like Brian Graham. So this is crazy. Let me read the tweet. I want you to respond for more because I know you probably was furious when you thought, look, Trump and Mamdani giving the country a vision of what bottom versus top, oh my God, rather than left versus right politics could look like. If not historic, a genuinely novel development. Bro, what? Bro, I thought the first tweet I showed from him was disgusting of him defending the NYPD people. I think this is probably worse. Jesus Christ. Vera, you have anything you want to I can't.
I said that this is what capitulation and opportunism looks like. I quote tweeted him what that's what it actually is. This is liberalism, what he's saying. This is exactly what a liberal represents. And I'm not saying that because I want to hyper focus on labels. I'm saying it because that's what Ryan is. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, as much as he says, I talk about Palestine or he talks about this and that, when the opportunity comes, he's very, very easily going to stand by this sort of BS, complete and total just bullshit. It's just hogwash. Everybody knows it's ridiculous. So all the times you've been saying that Donald Trump is this, that Donald Trump is that. And by the way, this isn't top down. In what world is Donald Trump at the bottom? In what world is Donald Trump not part of the elite class? He has an entire administration full of Zionists and elites. His son-in-law wants to make Gaza into a literal resort and high luxury rise, like little enclave. And now Palestinians have been effectively handed over to the people that caused this entire genocide. And Trump is somehow at the top, at the bottom. And Mamdani, who's also a Nepo baby, is somehow also coming from the bottom, right? So none of these people are at the bottom. None of these people represent class issues. They literally are just selling you theater in an effort to try to bring about this image of uniting the United States under a banner of peace, which is complete bullshit.
Ryan Graham sees this image and he thinks of the dictatorship of the proletariat. Versus bottom? What do you mean? Like, bro, the lack of class analysis there is mind-blowing. Yeah. Is this what the dictatorship of the proletariat looks like to you, Ryan Graham? You guys, and I can show you so many tweets. I didn't have time to gather them before the stream. I was just scrolling. All the Ryan Graham types, all the DSA people like, this is amazing. They love the political theater. And Trump, he fell in love with Zohran. And there's a lot of people are surprised by it, Fiorella. They're like, I can't believe that Trump was so nice to Mamdani. What do you mean? Mamdani is in the back rooms telling these people to chill out, bro. Everything is going to be okay. And Trump confirmed that. People who met with Zohran like, hey, man, he's not as bad as we thought he was. So he's making these backroom deals with capitalists, essentially promising them that he's not going to disrupt things. Meanwhile, the DSA left just ignoring it. Oh, isn't this great? Isn't this a demonstration of a top versus bottom? Absurd. Absurd. This is a person. Let me tell you, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Like, this is like another example of the bromance between Trump and Zohran.
You used to call New York City home. Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting.
He is a billionaire. Like, labor-busting scum that said he will be comfortable living in Zohran Mamdani's New York after his conversation. So if you're accountable to the people, Zohran, shouldn't it be upon you and your team to be transparent with your supporters? Let's say they disagree with us, Fiorella, because I don't think backroom deals is a way to achieve victories in the class war. But let's say you take the alternative route. Wouldn't it be better for you to be transparent to your supporters about what deal was offered? So they're not asking these questions like, hey, what was said behind the scenes? You have this distrust, and then when people have this distrust, then you have people like Ryan Grimm and Emma Vigeland for the majority court, the gatekeepers. They will then tell you, Fiorella, to shut up and trust the plan. Shut up and trust the plan. That's what they want us to say. This bromance between them is deeply concerning. Like, Trump is actively defending him. And they admit that all the things they said on the campaign, they're like, oh, that's just campaign nonsense. And I was catching a live feed because I wanted to see what they said before I went live. There was a live feed of CNN discussing this. I know you guys will never watch it, but I'm going to pay for punishment. They loved it, Fiorella. They were like, this is another example of how this can get a little rowdy on the campaign trail, but at the end of the day, we are one giant team.
We're all Americans.
Part out loud.
Nick, I understand, like, it's funny, but it is funny, like, in a very cosmetic sense, but it's very, like, sad and revealing and threatening because for us, for the regular people, because you know for a fact, after, again, he says the quiet part out loud, no, after this meeting, you know, I would feel safe, because Zohran Mamdani is not only Zionist compromise, he's also billionaire compromise. He's had several billionaires around his campaign. He has a dark money, like a dark money now 501c4, and now he's just basically revealing that he's as threatening as a glass of milk. I mean, he was always non-threatening, right? But it's hilarious because, you know, they went from calling him a jihadist communist that's going to bring in Sharia law into New York to now, oh, well, I met with him and you know, everything's fine. Well, what do you think happened during that meeting? He basically told him, I'm gonna do what you all tell me to do. And there's no way, because guess what? AOCIA, right? If all these people, they're in line with Mamdani. So what we're seeing here is actually, I'm glad this happened, because it's a revelation. It's a revelation that there's no progressive, there's no Democrat, there's no Republican. It's all the same shit. And they just sell you different things when it's opportune enough in order for you to buy into that.
Once again, they love theater, Fiorella. I had conversations with people I know who are smart, well-read Marxists who like the Zohran Mamdani, because they're like, yeah, Nick, I know you, a lot of things you're saying make sense, but wouldn't the Zionist meltdown be hilarious? How many times have you heard that?
Yes. Oh my God, stop.
I know Zohran Mamdani is not going to do anything, but the Zionist meltdown after the election is going to be hilarious. You guys see how everyone loves theater? Even the people who consider themselves revolutionaries, they love the political theater of two people who have different politics getting along. This is enough to fire them up. Like, this is what you fall for? Like, you guys are okay being friendly and cordial with genocidal Zionists? Here's Donald Trump. I'll play this clip. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's play this clip. I'm going to expound what I mean on that a little bit more. Let's play this. Here's Donald Trump defending Zohran once again, because this meeting was hilarious. I'll be for a second, I can't show you guys the whole meeting, but you had all these reporters that were trying their best to make Zohran Mamdani and Trump fight, and they wasn't taking the bait. And this is just another example. And I think this clip is very damning because it reveals that everything they say on the campaign trail is a lie. Another thing they say, that I know you heard, is, well, if Zohran Mamdani isn't a threat, why are they calling him a jihadist? Why is the establishment so afraid of him? Fiorella. Why is the corporate media running hit jobs on them? That's what they say. And here they admit all these campaign events is just theater. And the reason why CNN was celebrating it, because it was the ruling class reminding themselves that, oh, we are all on the same team. Now listen to this clip here.
Mr. President, Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zohran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
No, I don't, but she's out there campaigning and
No, you don't believe that. And he said she's out there campaigning. Another admittance by Donald Trump, which is why it's great that he just says the quiet part out. So this is him saying all that campaign bullshit is nonsense. It's only designed to get working class people invested in an election that won't do shit for them. And it was wow to me. And I know you was probably freaked out about it. To see leftists fall for this again over the last few months, fall for this political theater. But let me play the rest of this clip here. It's him admitting that all the Republican fear-mongering about Zohran was just political theater.
Mr. President, Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zohran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
no, I don't, but she's out there campaigning and, you say things sometimes in a campaign.
Isn't that sort of the,
She's a very capable person.
isn't
But
that a kind of label?
you really have to ask her about that. But I don't particularly. I think I met with I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again. And I can say again,
Bro,
because New York was great.
Mr. President,
what did Zohran tell this man, Fiorella?
That's what I'm wondering.
If you're
But
a
I'm
Zohran,
wondering.
you'd be horrified at this. But you have anything you want to add, Fiorella?
What else is there to say? I mean, he obviously told him he's going to capitulate. I mean, there's no other reason why Donald Trump, a billionaire, is going to not be threatened by a supposed democratic socialist who wants to, lower rent and wants to do all these socialist things and put in all these free, social programs. Republicans hate that. So why would Donald Trump think that New York will be great if Zohran Mamdani is going to do anything that he said, especially when it comes to the Israeli part? What do you think he's actually going to do if Donald Trump is saying this? And Donald Trump is also a really good actor in many ways, right? He likes the show. He likes to show off. He'll say one thing today, tomorrow he'll say something else. So yeah, I mean, he could change his mind in 5 seconds and say something else. But what they're doing here, what they're selling to the public, is actually very telling of where the United States policy in general is going and what we're going to see, in the midterms and beyond.
Yeah, and I still want to get to Ukraine because that's a pretty big story. So we're going to get to that very soon. I got 2 more quick clips on this segment because I want to show what they said about Israel, because you guys know we focus heavy on geopolitics because there's a lot of nonsense. There's a lot of stuff in this meeting that if you're interested, you can check out, but I found a lot of it to be boring. And a lot of it mostly just the same thing I kind of show you, with them loving each other, them defending each other. Trump said he believes that Zohran is going to do a great job. Like, Trump is loving him. And this shows that Zohran is an amazing talent for the ruling class, not for us. But he's an amazing talent, probably one of the greatest politicians, I think, since Obama. And this is why the progressive left love him. They see, well, I should say progressive left, the sheepdog, gatekeeping left, the people who job, like the Ryan Grahams. Zohran Mamdani was the best thing to happen to him. Zohran Mamdani is the best thing to happen to Chris Ball, Kyle Kalinske, because it made it easier for them to do their sheepdog responsibilities. It's very hard when Kamala is the top. When she was on top of the ticket, no other option. They got to tell people to vote for Kamala. Don't get me wrong, they did it. They're not going to say no here. They're going to do it. But it's much easier when you have someone like Zohran, which is why I was laser focused on exposing him very early on, because he's a gigantic threat to the working class. I acknowledge him. I acknowledge his skills and how much of a threat he is to my politics. He is a direct threat to my revolutionary politics, which is why I've been aggressively calling him out. And it's why the people just now realize this. I'm laughing a lot. I know it's not funny, but laughing is my coping mechanism. Because as I said on Saturday show, I'm saddened to see the left fall for this again. I feel like I failed my job. I feel like I didn't do my job right. Like, we're supposed to give the working class another alternative, and they still keep falling for this shit. It's deeply depressing. But anyway, let me shut up. Let me play this clip here. This is what when Zohran was asked about standing next to a genocidal monster? Obviously not exactly like that, but that's essentially the question. Oh, let me unmute you.
And you did the piece in all the 9 months around the world. I would like to ask Mr. Mamdani, you've accused the U.S. government of committing genocide in Gaza while President Trump was working on peace. Why that?
I've spoken about the Israeli government committing genocide, and I've spoken about our government.
Bro, you fucking pussy! That's what you're supposed to say. I spoke about the Israeli government committing genocide, not Donald Trump. So are you saying that Donald Trump is innocent?
Yeah.
This is not helpful to the pro-Palestinian movement. He is literally giving Donald Trump an out. He is using his platform to sell to his base that the United States is innocent. You know who's guilty, Fiorella? Just the Netanyahu government. Once we get rid of Netanyahu, we can go back to a peaceful Israel. This is what Zohran is promoting. Anyway, let me finish all clip, man. This is crazy. Like, to me, I think this is one of the biggest moments Zohran has ever been exposed, but it's going to get worse because you don't have to earn your goddamn votes anymore. Like, you guys already voted for him. You guys already supported him, so too late now to hold him accountable. You guys should have did that months ago. The second that the left didn't do that is how I knew you guys was cooked. The second that you guys turned him into a celebrity. But sorry, let me play the whole clip again. God damn it. This is crazy.
Around the world. I would like to ask Mr. Mamdani, you've accused the U.S. government of committing genocide in Gaza while President Trump was working on peace. Why that?
I've spoken about the Israeli government committing genocide, and I've spoken about our government funding it. And I shared with the president in our meeting about the concern that many New Yorkers have of wanting their tax dollars to go towards the benefit of New Yorkers and their ability to afford basic dignity. And what we see right now is we're in the 9th consecutive year of more than 100,000 school children being homeless in our city. And there's a desperate need not only for the following of human rights, but also the following through on the promises we've made New Yorkers. And I appreciated the meeting we had and the work that we can do.
Do you agree that President Trump didn't do a peace and work hard to make the peace? Because he worked hard to do the peace in the Middle East and everywhere. Do you agree with that?
I appreciate all efforts towards peace, and I shared with President Trump that when I spoke to Trump voters on Hillside Avenue, including one of whom was a pharmacist that spoke about how President Trump's father actually went to that pharmacy not too far from Jamaica Estates, that people were tired of seeing our tax dollars fund endless wars. And I also believe that we have to follow through on the international human rights. And I know that still today, those are being violated, and that continues to be work that has to be done no matter where we're speaking of.
Absolute barf. Absolute vomit all over my keyboard. Figuratively speaking, there's figuratively vomit all over my keyboard right now after hearing this. So I want to give a reaction to this, but this is what I find unbelievably evil and a massive betrayal of the Palestinian people. Because I want justice for Palestine. Zohran Mamdani and the DSA left don't give a damn about justice for Palestine. If it was up to them, they want to move on. Hey, look, you know that God thing happened? Let's move on. Let bygones be bygones. For the illusion of achieving a domestic agenda. But Fiorella, do you have any responses? This is the clip I wanted to show the most because I think this is extremely revealing. And it highlights my argument I made for weeks before he was elected, how Zohran Mamdani is going to do more harm to Palestinians and more harm to the anti-Zionist movement than he will help. But Fiorella, any response to this? And we'll get to Ukraine next, so I promise. Anything else you want to add?
You know, again, this is a wonderful revelation that I think a lot of people didn't see because we saw it right from the start. He placated the anti-Semitism. He talked about, protecting the Israelis of New York. He talked about all this stuff. So this isn't new, but it's the fact that he is right now betraying pretty much all the pro-Palestinian supporters. He also decided to tell them not to use the word intifada, if you recall. So he has been doing this. But I think that this takes it to another level because he's backing off of the rhetoric he had in the beginning. And how many days has it been since he won? I mean, guys, he already sold you out. I'm so sorry. I mean, this is very fast. This is faster than AOC did it. And she, you know what I mean? Like, this is like record-breaking time. It's sad, but I mean, it's what we said would happen. Fell for it again award. There you go.
Yeah, DSA is a glorified jobs program for liberal rich kids. and Zohran Mamdani got the job. That was the entire point of it. This will be the last clip I show because this is a big viral tweet. I'm saying it for last for a reason because it shows that Zohran Mamdani is not even willing to call Donald Trump a fascist anymore. And this moment right here is probably the most viral moment out of the whole meeting by far. Like people on both sides are reacting to this, like, wow, this is a crazy moment. Democrats think this is amazing. It's a great sign of unity and stability politics. This makes my skin crawl. So this will be the last clip we show on this because it's the most viral out of all the clips.
To clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson, he asked about your comment calling the president a fascist, and your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about.
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay.
Okay. That's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
It's okay, honey. It's okay, honey. It's okay, baby.
Donald Trump knew he was weak. He was like, bro, I can't. He was irked. He's like, bro, I don't want to hear your fucking weakness, bro. Just say yeah. So Zohran is not even willing. He was about to give a long Pete Buttigieg 2-paragraph answer. And Trump was like, bro, I don't want to do this shit. Trump was like, bro, I don't even want to sit through this shit. Bro, please just move on. But I think that clip is going very viral, but it shows the kind of effort that Mamdani is making to send a message to the capitalist class that he's not a threat to them.
Yep.
I tweeted pretty extensive coverage on it. Do you have any final thoughts on this meeting? Any final thoughts on Zohran as a whole? This statement went a little bit longer than I thought, but I think we have to really break this down in a minute. Any final thoughts?
He's just the epitome of what liberalism is, you know? On the outside, it looks like it's for the people, like they're going to do something about it. But really, truly, he represents the liberalism of liking how good things sound, but never actually having anything substantial, anything tangible, anything inside. It's just cosmetic, and he's very good at the cosmetics part. I mean, he's very talented as a politician, which is why he shouldn't be trusted, because he is very good at it. And I wouldn't be surprised that he climbs up the political ladder based on his talent to deceive, you know?
Oh yeah, that's the next New York standard, guys. Oh, he's gonna be one of those lifetime standards. Like, isn't Chuck Schumer a New York standard? He's been sitting there forever. So I explained this on Saturday. I think it's very obvious to anyone who should have any sort of analysis on politics that Zohran Mamdani being so young is kind of like, you guys know that you only can serve 2 terms as mayor in New York, right? So you guys think that Zohran Mamdani hasn't drawn up an exit plan, what he plans on doing for the future? This is why it's important to bring this up. And I brought this up all the time, Fiorella, because I said for weeks before the election, I'm like, how do you hold him accountable? Because the New York mayorship will be a job he will use to propel him to either a congressperson or a senator. And he is so popular in New York, once he get elected, there's no getting rid of him, bro, fam. And then from there, he can be whatever the establishment wants him to be. If he's gonna be the next I'm blanking on her name. What's the former Green Party person for Arizona? I forgot her damn name. But the person who was pretending to be a progressive back in the day, and then I forgot her damn name. You guys know
what you're talking about.
I'm stuck with these politicians, but the Arizona senator from the Democratic senator, Kristen Sinema, thank you. It's been a long time since I covered her.
It's been a
and they needed her to be a rotating villain. And I even see Zohran Mamdani filling that role. Like, if they ever need him to be a rotating villain, that's what it's all for. But let's get to one of the main reasons I wanted to buy Shantae. There's Jesus Christ, get this guy on my fucking screen.
Oh my goodness.
This is all I meant to show you guys. Fahim Zakaria, by the way, you gotta see my segments with him. He's one of my funniest propagandists to roast. Like, he's the guy that the establishment trusts more than anything. Talk about stuff like Ukraine. Now, I want to get your thoughts on this because Ukraine, the war is over. Like, the war has been over. The front lines in Ukraine have completely collapsed. You have over 100,000 Ukrainian men who fled the country over the last month. And you have a massive corruption scandal in Ukraine that is toppling the regime. So before I dive into more details in this, Fiorella, do you want to discuss this peace plan that has many neocons in Europe freaking out? Ursula von der Leyen, everybody is freaking out about this peace plan. So I would love to give you an opportunity. Do you want to explain what this is about, the context behind it? What's your thoughts on, and do you think that this is actually a positive development for peace in Ukraine? I ask it that way. What's your thoughts on this before I continue, Fiorella?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have a very interesting point of view on this because I think this time I know we've heard it many times, but I think this time what I've been seeing is this is actually one of the most legitimate ones because you have Kirill Dmitriev, who is Putin's envoy, working with Stephen Witkoff, and he's been working on this for a while. What they basically did was take everything from around the time they were saying they were going to have the Alaska summit and kind of just drew it together into a 28-point plan. And a lot of it is actually mostly not beneficial to Ukraine because Ukraine, as you said, it's a done deal. I mean, they've essentially lost, right? That there's essentially nothing that they can do. And a lot of it is being thrown at Zelensky. Zelensky, this is it. So basically what's in agreement is that Zelensky has to accept this or the United States will stop giving intelligence and any sort of weapons to Ukraine. Now, we've heard this before, but this time around, Trump actually vocally said in several interviews, he stated this, but then he didn't specify. Now, from the Russian side, what we have heard is that this plan hasn't really been discussed in detail, but it could be the foundation of peace between Russia and Ukraine. Okay, the reality is Russia does want to normalize relations with the United States. If you have noticed, there has been more of antagonistic attitude from Trump towards Europe, and also an antagonistic attitude from Russia towards Europe as well. So it's whatever Europe wants is irrelevant because Europe has been entirely destroyed from this proxy war. It hasn't been the United States in terms of, the defense industry, in terms of the economy, but it's been Europe that's taken the brunt. So in this 28-point peace plan, it's supposed to be the one that's going to end the war for a long time, right? However, Nick, we know that the United States is always going to look at Russia as a competitor with suspicion. And I believe that any sort of plan to end this war could easily be regurgitated and completely thrown out, meaning that I don't think there's anything as peace forever between the United States and Russia unless Russia is captured. So one of the things that they're demanding in this 20-point peace plan is Ukraine's sovereignty will be recognized, but that Ukraine will never be a part of NATO, and that they will still receive assistance from the EU. Basically, it's almost like they will be a part of the EU, but they can never join NATO. And Russia and Ukraine have to agree never to invade each other. They have to agree to a reliable Ukraine gets reliable security guarantees. So a lot of this is kind of the same stuff that we've seen before. And they're going to limit the amount of military forces that are in Ukraine to 600,000 people. And they're also going to have European fighter jets stationed in Poland. This is, I think, this will be a source of contention because we do know that a way to get at Russia is through Poland. Any sort of buildup in Poland, and the relationship between Russia and Poland is not good. It never has been since World War II. And in fact, it's almost more negative than with Ukraine. So I find there's going to be some contention there. The US is supposed to receive money in compensation for this, which is a nice little thing that's been negotiated for them. If either Ukraine or Russia invade each other, the whole thing is thrown out. The whole thing is thrown out. This is the part where I think that there could be a false flag that could revoke this whole thing. Because they specifically say if Russia invades Ukraine, right, then there could be and there's going to be like a reaction and all of this will go out the window. So there could be sure, let's say Russia doesn't invade Ukraine again, there could be a false flag that could show that. And I don't put it past the US to do that. The sanctions will be lifted little by little. It's not going to be their number one thing to do that. This whole thing, though, the way this 28 plan reads is very much economically focused. So there's going to be joint efforts to rebuild Ukraine and all that stuff, but it's really focused on the minerals in Ukraine. It's focused on the natural resources in Ukraine. And remember that the United States and Russia they have been working on cooperation in Alaska and in the Arctic. And so this whole thing is going to have these sort of trades between the two, these economic partnerships that the Trump administration and Putin have talked about, that they are eager to restart. Russia would also join the global economy. They would then become a member of the G8. So that puts me into question as to what's going to happen to BRICS if they become a member of the G8. It'll still exist. Of course, we have members of the G7 now, right, that are part of BRICS. But, how is that going to work? What's that going to look like? The World Bank is also going to be in charge of a special financing package to accelerate this whole thing, which is interesting to me. And then they talk about $100 billion of Russian assets invested in reconstruction. So again, this is going to be like Russians contributing, Europe contributing, and the US just making money and reaping the benefits. And again, I think they both have to sign a non-aggression pact towards, Russia has to sign it towards Europe, and then Ukraine has to get security guarantees. Now, the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant is going to be split 50-50 between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. And they have to sign back the START 1 treaty as well. So that's going to be a thing. The port, the port through the Crimea area and the Black Sea grain corridor, that's going to be reopened, and Ukraine will also be able to manage that part as well. And all Nazi ideology is supposedly going to be, banished and prohibited. And the one thing that I think is going to be a contention for Russia, I think, is Crimea, Lugansk, and Donetsk. They're going to be Russian, but Kherson and Zaporozhye will be frozen. So there's going to be a line that's going to be Russia and another line that's going to be, not. So I think that's going to be difficult for Russia to accept because they already captured it. I mean, Russians are in Kiev. So it's kind of like, I don't know. And I want to reiterate that there's a difference between the military in Russia and the political side, which is like the Kremlin and such. Like there are people upset in Russia about this because they're like, why would you even agree to do this? Right. And then there's people that are saying like, no, this is good. This will bring peace. So to me, I don't trust the United States. I don't trust Europe. I don't trust NATO. I don't trust any peace plan. When you look at it just up front, it would be good to end the war in terms of, stopping a war, in terms of the fact that there isn't going to be any more fighting, that there's going to be more normalcy, especially for someone like me that is often traveling to the United States and stays in Russia. So it would be beneficial for a lot of reasons. But do I trust that Russia should move forward with a plan made by the United States? No, not that. Do I trust in their word? No. How many times has the United States and NATO tricked Russia? How many times have they broken their promises? How many times have they lied? So I think these are important points to watch. But Putin definitely made some statements. I don't know if you have that video.
Yeah. I saw you. That was a great breakdown, Fiorella, as always on this topic. And I saw you covered this, and this is why I thought it seemed like at first it was whenever I see any of these peace plans, like whatever, I covered. We've been there, done that. But I did see Russian officials said they like the original draft that they saw. You got Putin that said that it's a good foundation. So that's a good sign. But what I want to cover now, because you did a great analysis about the situation, is showing the pure meltdown by the West media. And I want to be quick on this because I know we're going a little bit long tonight. But like the European neocons are complete meltdown mode. And look at this pure cope, Fiorella. Have you ever seen anything that is more delusional than this? Like Putin, he was losing badly. Like everything was going well. He's got lucky, apparently. Because in order to sell the Ukraine proxy war, they had to convince their people that they was winning. They were saying they was winning even last year. It wasn't until it became undeniable that they finally started telling the truth about Ukraine starting to collapse. And now you have these headlines that are like, man, if only Trump didn't capitulate to Russia, we can still have it. No, fam, it's over. There's nothing that you can do. It's over. because these are the front lines. This shows how delusional this headline is. Putin, he was losing badly, but this is what the British Army showed, like the Ukrainian front line, which they held for a very long time, completely gone. And yeah, Michael McFaul, he definitely, bro, the coach. I wish I could have grabbed more. I got a few for you guys. I wish I could have grabbed more because this was code red for all the Ukraine proxy war supporters. Here, Klitschko, the pro-NATO boxer, like, why can't?
Yeah, it is a surrender plan. But what did you expect? What did you expect? I mean, this has been over for a long time. Okay, this is, and again, it has nothing to do with luck. I do think that the United States is looking at Russia as a power that has proven itself and that can be beneficial to some sort of economic, and trade partnerships. That's what they're looking at. And Donald Trump, again, he's going from peace plan to peace plan. He wants to get this win on his side. He campaigned on this. And I think that this one will look more like a win for him than any of the other ones because it's with Russia and a lot of his supporters are going to, like, they love it, and he's trying to connect. They're trying to connect the Trump administration and Putin with the conservative values, and that's how they're doing it. And so this is going to look like a victory for Trump when this deal goes through, because I think we will see a deal. We're coming into 4 years next year. Okay. Yeah. So like that, they do want, Russia is interested in terms of the Kremlin in stopping this and having an economic relationship with pretty much everybody in the world. They're a very pragmatic nation. They're not a nation that's, emotional or ideological in that sense that I think a lot of people believe. They're extremely pragmatic in how they move. And so they're looking at this as like, okay, let's stop. Let's move on. And I think that's going to upset a lot of people on many sides because a lot of people are emotional about this. And that's why you're seeing like the various reactions. And yeah, like NATO suffered, Europe suffered, Ukraine suffered. But what
do you think was going to happen? You guys thought you were going to defeat Russia? Throwing Ukrainian men into the meat grinder. Look, this represents capitulation for Ukraine. I'm going to throw a few reactions, then we can begin to wrap up here. This represents capitulation for Ukraine. Trump is not mediating an end to this horrific invasion. He is acting on behalf of the imperialist invaders. Shameful reversal. I'll show you guys a few more. Here's, who is this person? Kate from Kharkiv. Ukrainian propagandist person. Zelensky has posted. I want to kind of show you guys. It's a long video where he came out with a video addressing the nation. This essentially sums it up. Zelensky posted a deeply difficult 10-minute national address. It's honestly heartbreaking to watch. I'm sure translations are already circulating, and you'll find it online. But the first point you need to hear is this. Right now is one of the most difficult moments in our history. At this moment, Ukraine may face a very hard choice, either the loss of dignity, which will be the peace plan, or the risk of losing a key partner. It just says, I feel sick. And look at the delusion that you guys can even fight this war without the United States. Can you imagine being that delusional? But here's a few more, only two more I'll show you guys. Because I could show you 100. I might show you 1,000. Because the Ukraine flag Twitter was in full-blown meltdown mode over the last 24 hours. I'll just show you two more. If Ukraine accepts this, there will be no Ukraine anymore. Well, Ukraine was doomed the second you guys decided to provoke a proxy war against Russia. If Europe accepts this, we must prepare for a direct war with Russia. Jesus Christ. These people are crashing out at a historic rate, my friend. Last one I'll show you guys, but trust me, there is way more. I can't show you guys the entire timeline. I wish you guys could see it, though, because I've been enjoying it. Wow, just wow. Oh, yeah, sorry. This tweet is about how Ukrainian officials was freaking out because a part of the peace plan. This is not a reaction. This is the last part I'll share. Part of the peace plan that is freaking out many of the Ukrainians is how the United States and Russia is calling for an investigation into the massive corruption schemes of Ukraine, which I don't know what you think, but I think the corruption scandal and the Ukrainian people losing faith in Zelensky and the government is one of the driving forces behind the neocon right willing to draw up these kind of peace plans. So what they're saying here essentially, and look, I'll just read it here. A senior U.S. official said that Ukraine significantly changed one of the 28 points in the version that appeared online. In an apparent move to expose alleged corruption, the draft has called for an audit of all international aid Ukraine had received. Then they changed the language that say that parties will receive full amnesty for their actions during the war. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's just pure cope by Ukraine and the Ukrainian corrupt ruling class in complete panic mode. But I want to hear your last thought on this. I'll share this. It'll be the last thing. I really do got to wrap up. I went way longer than I planned tonight. But this is what we warned what happened. I really hope that our brothers and sisters in Taiwan is paying attention. I really hope they don't let that crackhead, insane Taiwanese president lead them to the same path that Ukraine just went by, because people warned Ukraine. Like, this person warned Ukraine in 2006 that they will be lured in and destroyed by NATO, which he claimed will use Ukraine as a front line against Russia. So it'd be like if I play a 50-second clip and I get your final thoughts, Fiorella, when we get out of here.
Европа 300 лет наступает на Россию. В 2017 году мы будем отмечать эту годовщину. В 1717 году в Париже собрались масоны и сказали: наш враг на востоке, Российская империя. И 300 лет устраивают войны против нас. Каждые 10 лет. И сейчас это название Украина. Им нужно Крым, чтобы вот ушел наш флот. И подойти ближе к Орлу, Курску, Краснодару. Вот, не вы нужны им. Вы для них проходная площадка. Вы для них пушечное мясо. Никогда они вас никуда не примут. И НАТО лопнет. Германия больше не выдерживает. Поэтому у вас плохое будущее. Я не хочу этого. Но Россия вместе с Китаем и с Индией никого не боится. А вас они уничтожат. Я вам этом говорю. И Польшу, и Украину. Потому что вы географически между Брюсселем, Москвой и Пекином. Вот и все. Вот таким будет мир через 30 лет. Вы это не хотите сегодня понять, я подожду. Европа.
He tried to warn you. So, Fiorella, I'll give you any final thoughts on this. It's always great to hear your analysis on these kind of topics, which I have time to cover more, but I think we can wrap it here. Any final thoughts on the Ukrainian peace plan or anything you want to lead the audience with as we begin to wrap up? Once again, Fiorella does amazing work. Great to hear your analysis tonight. Thank you for joining us, Fiorella.
Yeah, I think everybody should just look at like the geopolitics of the world right now, where we're at, and then like how this is coming on the heels of the UNSC vote, and like how Trump is trying to portray himself as the peacemaker of our times, and how that now he's moving on to the thing that he ran on. He wants to end the war in Ukraine, not because he cares about Ukrainians or Russians or any sort of peace, but because he wants to look good, because he wants to make sure he gets that title. And so now I think that they are serious about this. And I think Russia is actually a lot more willing than a lot of people have thought. And I've been saying this for almost a year, since February, when these talks began, and these talks about cooperation and economics. And I think like Russia has to tread very carefully, because the United States has always a trick up their sleeve. They will not look at Russians as equals. They'll look at them as potential players, especially since they've proven themselves in this war. But I do worry about any sort of interaction that could potentially be used in the future once, their strategy changes and the opportunity arises to use it against them, and eventually, of course, restart any sort of attack. So we'll see what happens. I don't see anything as permanent, and that's just, my opinion. But
yeah, I wanted to cover Venezuela today, but we didn't have time. We're going to have you back on the field, right? It's all great. We definitely going to have you back on here soon. There's so much to discuss. Make sure you guys follow Fiorella's show with Vanessa Beeley. I love Vanessa Beeley. So you guys have a new podcast. Make sure you guys check out Fiorella there at Critical Perspectives. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe. I just started this new channel a month ago, my personal YouTube channel. Hope you guys are enjoying the coverage. And if you're new, please subscribe. We need to decentralizing a little bit more on RBN, because we've seen them going after the main RBN channel. So instead of them breaking on the group, let's all decentralize. Let's have Stabby have her own channel. JB has his channel. I have my channel. So if you're new to this, please make sure you subscribe. Support us on Patreon as we continue to build this new channel. Tomorrow, we have a special Saturday show. I haven't done a Saturday show in a while. We had Jody Brar who joined us. So maybe we had time to break down Venezuela. That will be Saturday. We have a special Saturday stream tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern with our friend Jody. you know, always great to talk about Marxism and communism with her. Thank you for joining us once again, Fiorella. Make sure you guys follow her work. She does great work. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your weekend, y'all. Take care. See you tomorrow. See you guys tomorrow.